Hey everybody, welcome to Olympic Minds Leadership Beyond Limits. I'm Sherry Winn, your podcast host. This is a podcast for the leader of leaders, the visionary of visionaries. It's a podcast for the leaders who want to go beyond success into significance and beyond mediocrity into mastery. This is not a theory-based podcast. This is a podcast where people have lived leadership. So this is really from their experience, from their knowledge, from their wisdom. And I'm thrilled today that I'm going to introduce you to a friend of mine, John Norton. Before I do that, let me tell you just briefly a little bit more about me if this happens to be your first podcast. I'm a two-time Olympian, national championship basketball coach, award winner, speaker, and author. I have had 5 books on leadership. Just came out with my last 2, which I'm thrilled to share with you, Winning Business Secrets and Winning Wisdom. And I'm the CEO of the Winning Leadership Company. I interviewed John a couple of years ago, 3 years ago maybe. And when I interviewed him, I was just like, well, this is a guy that people need to know because of his leadership expertise, the way he's genuine, he's authentic, he's compassionate, he's got the compassion, that caring component down about leadership. He was a VP at General Dynamics, AT&T, and IBM. So he's really been in the giants of the giants of the giants. He knows leadership well. And so, John, let's just dive in right now. So if you were looking at leadership and you said right now you're mentoring some college students, what is the first thing you tell them about leadership? So the first thing that they need to know, maybe that they think the thing that they think they know about leadership and what true leadership really is.
Well, first, thanks a lot, Sherry. It's great to see you and great to be part of this. Thank you for asking. What I tell the students, and these are first-year MBA students at a college around here, what I tell them is be authentic because you were a person long before you were a title or a position. And people want to relate to people. They want to be treated like a person. And you as a leader want to be treated like a person. You don't want to be treated like a title because that sort of isolates you over in the corner. You always have a label on you as opposed to being part of the group. You don't want that label. You want to be part of the group. There are times you have to execute the leadership principles or hey, I'm the boss here. I have to do something that, and the easy one is performance management. You got to be the boss around performance management and feedback time. But sometimes, having the title, you aren't the most valuable person. Sometimes the most valuable person in the room, when you've got a good team of people focused on, doing their job, sometimes your job as a leader is to make sure they got stuff what they want, even if it includes coffee. So if you got to go get coffee, get the coffee. Even
if it includes coffee. Like how many leaders think that way? They think that people should go get them coffee. Like,
absolutely.
And that's when you're stuck in I'm the title, right? Versus I'm here to support you. I'm here to help you move forward. I'm here to remove any obstacles. It's really getting out of that idea that I am the title. So John, what helped you? What helped you understand that? Like you came up through a lot of different companies. You were really high up in the C-suite in a lot of companies. What helped you understand? What was it that really helped you understand I'm more than the title, and the most important thing that I am is a person first?
Well, it sort of goes back to the first time I was promoted to a management position, and many moons ago, I was working in a Unix development lab out in Silicon Valley. I got promoted to a management position of a function. And as a result, I started attending development planning and development status meetings. And I learned something in that meeting that I carry with me today, or those meetings that I carry with me today. And it's the first principle I write down when I want to talk about team culture. And it's, I am more interested in being effective than I am in being right. And the situation, I'll go real quick through this, as in many software projects, it's not going too well. There are times when the air is turbulent. And I went into this meeting loaded. I was upset. I think people weren't doing their job. I sounded off in this meeting with all the things that weren't working, and I was extremely self-righteous about it. Ooh. And the meeting breaks up. We go back to our respective places. My office neighbor was also in that meeting. Is a wonderful guy who had a voice like James Earl Jones or Paul Robeson. So when he spoke, even just the sound was resonant, and he also was pretty impactful. And what he said to me is he poked his head in and said, "You have time for a question?" I said, "Sure." He goes, "Young man, are you more interested in being right or being effective?" And I said, "What?" And he said, "Listen, everything you said in that room was spot on, right on the money, but nobody heard you. Because you appeared that you were more interested in getting your point across, making everybody wrong, making yourself right. And so that was sort of a shift in my path that said, yeah, because my secret formula is I'm smart. I'm smart and I figure stuff out. Mm-hmm. But what I realized is you can be as smart as you want, but if you're trying to lead people, you have to figure out how to be effective. Because here's the other thing. If the leader doesn't show up for a couple of days, the work gets done.
Right.
But if the folk don't show up, the leader's sunk because you can't do it all yourself. So if you don't understand how to build the team, create the winning culture, and create the winning behaviors,
right.
And you also don't understand how to overcome adversity when it happens, because it will happen.
Right.
So you need to understand those things.
Yeah, the first thing about, the being right part. We're so interested, especially in our youth, we're so interested about being right, and especially about them being wrong. Like, I'm right, they're wrong. Like, this is the whole thing. And we think that showing how smart we are, showing how powerful we are, not listening, not empowering the other people, but just like, I'm right, you're wrong kind of thing. And I know that's a tendency for young people to do. I did it when I was young. And then, through time I learned, it was not just through time. I think time is a good indicator, but having that mentor you just talked about, having somebody around you who's willing to have the conversation with you. But the second thing was you were willing to listen. So if you're not willing to listen, that conversation was it didn't go anywhere, but your willingness to listen to that, right? And so I'd love it that you understood right away that wasn't going to take you very far. That yes, people could see that you were smart, dividing your team, making them feel awful and not empowering them is not going to ever get you where you want to go. So that's a powerful lesson. So how do you, it's an ego thing though, John, this is really an ego thing. Like, we have to be able to, as leaders, get ourselves in the back seat. Like, we think we've achieved all this to get in the front seat, but we have to be able to get in the back seat. So it's the ego, our ego, like, I'm important, I've got the title. We have to be able to somehow put that down. So I know you had the conversation with that great mentor of yours. How else did you learn that being a leader wasn't about you, but about your team?
Wow. Yeah, there's a lot to that. I really see it goes back to the realization that I myself could not do it by myself. Mm-hmm. When I had a small team, a very focused people, I could take on a lot of the stuff myself and basically brute force success, when you needed to. But as you're growing and you expand control or your span of responsibility, because it's really not about control, it's more about what are you responsible for. What I realized, again, another realization is that I couldn't do it all. So my success lives in them.
Right.
So in order for me to be successful, and it is somewhat, if you look at it, it can be a little bit self-serving, is I need to make others successful, because as they're successful, I will be successful.
Right.
So it becomes a cycle where the more you invest in the success of others, the more successful you get. And it shows up in, you also have to know what your value system is. I mean, some people, the value system is a title or money. Nothing wrong with either, believe me, right? Nothing wrong with making a good living. Nothing wrong for being recognized with, but you also have to know what happens beyond that, what matters to you. And what mattered to me, and this is, I think it goes into the personality, but what matters to me was taking care of other people. It sounds a little trite because everybody wants to talk about that. But I realized that the most satisfaction I got was when I saw other people succeed and that I had a hand in it. I didn't need the attaboy pat on the back, but seeing them succeed, that made me happier than the individual success that I had. Because I wouldn't have been success. In order for me to get to where I got to, I had to be successful. So I already tasted success just by getting to where I got to.
Right.
But for me to expand, the only way I could expand was to make others successful. Right. And once I realized that was like, I'll call it twice the juice.
Sure.
I got satisfaction in them.
Right. I think the greatest thing for me, John, throughout the years, I coached college basketball for 23 years, was my players now, after all this time, reaching back out to me and saying to me how I impacted their lives. Not basketball, how I impacted their lives. So I recently had a former player of mine inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Nice.
And what she said was so great. She says, I could talk about Coach Winn and coaching, but what she really did for me is she taught me about self-development. She taught me about me. She helped me grow me. I mean, I get chills thinking about that because, the impact that you have on other people and how that goes into their their families now, right now. So those players that I coached, you have to think about this. They spend longer in a career than people ever spend on a basketball court, right? So I had players for 4 years and then they were gone. And most of the players never played ball again. You have a different impact because people are in their careers for 30 years or 20 years or even, 40 years now. So you have a little bit more of that, but it's truly about how you impacted their lives because that's a difference maker. They're now better because of knowing you. That's huge.
Yeah, it is huge. I have a tough time with that. I understand that. And I realized, so I just had a birthday a couple weeks ago. And this is the way it sort of played back to me. I got, hey, happy birthday. I remember when messages from people from 30 plus years ago that I had worked with in a job, or been part of a team somewhere. The fact that they thought enough to take a few minutes or seconds out of their day to say, hey, this dude just had a birthday. Let me say happy birthday. And they brought back, a lot of them had, do you remember when? And they were chuckle moments like, yeah, I remember that one. Kind of think, well, that was fun, wasn't it? So it was really nice to get that kind of, acknowledgement. And I think that kind of acknowledgement when they don't have to makes it all the sweeter. It's like when, I had a retirement party. I think 250 people from the company showed up, and which was surprising. And that was really nice. But the messages that I got from people that didn't have to do anything, but took the time out to do it anyway, it just reminded me of something that, has mattered to me all my life and also has driven me to be that type of person. Because like you, coaching and mentoring people, because you did more than coach, you mentored people in being people. And you did it when you didn't have to.
Right.
You had your job, but you went beyond. And there were so many people in my life, that didn't have to spend the time with me, but they took the time out to do that. It taught me something that, you got to look for those opportunities to give back, even in small ways, big ways, whatever that might be. But take the time to do it. Because it's worth it. Even if you never hear from them again, hearing back from them is great. But if you never hear from them again, you have the personal satisfaction of knowing you helped somebody.
Right. And I think that comes back from, when we look at great leaders, so the people we remember, I think we remember two kind. One is we remember the person who was like bad, just bad. I mean, that person was, you're like, how did you get this position? You don't understand. You don't get it, whatever that is. And we remember the ones that are super great. The ones that really altered our life for the better. We remember those two. And you can learn from both of them. I mean, I've learned a lot from the people that were horrible. And I learned a lot from the people who are great. We just don't remember the mediocrity. We don't remember the people who just, just weren't an impact. Like you're like, I don't remember that teacher. I don't remember that coach. I don't remember that leader. I just don't remember them. And I would say that we don't want to be remembered as the bad leader. Because you can learn what not to do, because it's a great lesson, right? You learn what not to do. But in order to be remembered as that leader, this is where I talked about early, you go from success to significance. So we really want to meet, for the great leaders, they did, success was good and they did drive success. I don't even want to say drive, because I think that's like a push. They did push people, but it was not pushing. It was like a willingness to go together. So you're looking at these, leaders today. What do you think is the biggest challenge that leaders today face that would help them to get to significance?
Man, I'll go down two tracks on this. And I think it's, I think one of the things is you're right. They have to make bold moves. They have to do things that make them, that put it out there. You're right. Mediocrity, it's fine in some cases, but I don't think any one of us wants to strive for mediocrity.
I'm average.
Yes. There are some times in school that getting the average was like, yes, C, that was good. It was a win. So I think there's two things. One, I think, what leaders need to be focusing on is how to embrace technology better than they do. You can't go anywhere without somebody talking about AI. I mean, my 95-year-old mother-in-law used AI to get a better understanding of a medical diagnosis that she got.
Yep.
So everybody's using it. But I think what they have to do is leverage and invest in emerging tech that enable, like AI, to enable both the tactical and strategic decision-making that they got. Because we're awash with data. We got data coming at us faster and faster from many, sources. And I think, in order to interpret the relevancy and the utility of the data, there are four things you have to do. I call it 4 A's. You have to acquire, aggregate, analyze, and apply. And, and the value gets unlocked in the application or the apply stage, because that's where you address the problem or achieve the goal you're going to get to. But it takes time to do the acquisition and aggregation of that data, and you really need smart people doing that. So if you got smart people doing that, they're not working on application. And so I call it TTV, time on task of value. You want to maximize their time on task on value. So that's a place where AI can help, but it's only going to come if leaders decide to invest and leverage it. So they have to be bold, and they have to be willing to make the investment over time, because we think AI is going to have immediate gratification, and it's not. It'll have some immediate gratification, but it gets better the more you invest in it. So you sort of have to stick with it for a while in order to get it to learn, so that it helps you do more than just acquiring and munging together the data. It starts to do the analysis for you. So your smartest people can be figuring out how to apply this to the task or the problem at hand. So I think that's one thing that leaders need to do. The other is, and it goes to, something we were talking about a little bit earlier, they got to invest in the whole person. They not just making them better at the area of expertise, right? You can get that. And there's a lot of ink out there about the generalist leader that's got, skills and adaptability and resilience, the big picture systemic thinking, and in cross-functioning and cross-company collaboration, because you're definitely not alone, and you aren't an island in and of yourself unless you're a small, very small entrepreneur. But your ability to create connection and relevance with other people is huge. And you're not going to get that unless you invest in those skills. So you got to get leaders that'll adapt and pivot to take on any challenge, not just where they're the expert in that particular area. You can bring in the expert and make them an advisor, and they can be highly effective under a good, adaptable leader. So I think, the biggest challenges, it's about investment in the people and investment in the technology, and sticking with it. You got to stick with it.
Yeah. Well, AI is not going to go away.
No,
AI
it's not.
And if you're in business and you're not investing in AI, you're not going to be in business. That's just truth. You could probably not invest in your people as much. What you're going to see when you don't invest in your people as much is you're going to see a slower progression. You're going to see the fallout of that. People they don't leave companies, they leave leaders. They leave, when leaders they don't listen, they don't value them, they don't value their thoughts, they don't value, their expertise. All those things happen. But I know that you had a challenge in your life. So I want to go back to, I interviewed you for a book several years ago. I want to go back to the challenge that you had in your life, and how did you overcome that? So you're working, and you're just pushing, and then you had a wake-up call. So tell us about what happened when you had that moment. I need to change who I am.
There's a time a few years ago where, my life was basically heading in a bad way. Physically, I weighed over 300 pounds, and my behavior wasn't something that I was really very proud of. And, career-wise, I was sort of like a rudderless boat. I was moving in one direction, but I could get blown off course so easy. And I wasn't in control. And I didn't have what I needed to do I didn't have the answer. So I'd hit the wall where being smart didn't help me at all. And so I had a friend of mine, former colleague, who decided to get out of the consulting business, technical consulting business, and start his own leadership business. And we were just chatting one day, and he was telling me about his business model, et cetera. And I said, man, I need that. And he goes, well, you're a little bit older than the target audience that I have, but you're my friend. So I'll give you, if you want to jump in, but understand, I'm asking you to go all in. I'm not asking you to try this. I'm asking you to commit to it. So I had to, and it really it was the start of me really understanding the whole being. And it was the 4 areas. One was, body, which was, both the physical, call it fitness and fuel. So you learn, you have to take care of yourself from a fitness perspective, but the fuel that goes into your body is very important. And it also got a quick concept of food as the concept of fuel as opposed to flavor. It didn't always have to taste good. So that was a little bit of a shift. There was, the spiritual side or the being side, which, for the program was, journaling and meditation. I added music to that because I'm a musician by training. I have a degree in music. And I put that back in as a sort of a spiritual or mindful side, because when you play an instrument and you play in an orchestra, and I happen to play the tuba, you have to pay attention. You can't be at the last meeting that didn't work, or the stupid thing you might have said to your spouse, or the situation where you behaved in a manner that you weren't proud of. You let anger or frustration overcome you. You had to be present. So it taught me to be able to be present, whether I was meditating or writing about it or playing the tuba. The next piece was around relationships and having a balance in those relationships. So this was make sure that your key relationships are good every single day, proactively. So some of it is like leaving sticky notes, for your significant other without a response. Because a lot of times, we've all said, I love you. And what you're really waiting for is the echo. And what you really want to do is put it out there. You don't need a response. You're doing it because you want that to be communicated, not because you want acknowledgement. And the same with your, for me, it was my wife and my 2 children. I needed to make sure every single day that they knew how I felt. And the funny thing about that is, my wife is an extremely competent, extremely self-reliant person who always thinks forward motion. And it used to irritate the daylights out of me. And what I realized was that irritation was born out of jealousy.
Oh.
I needed to be more like her, not jealous of her. So she became, I learned by observing. Like, yeah, you just keep moving forward. So, but I wanted to make sure that relationship was in sync every day. I didn't want to go a single day worrying about, was I good with my wife? Her name is June.
And then you said body, spiritual, and then you said relationships.
And then relationships. Yeah, and the fourth is business. You need to do something for your craft. I mean, if you're going to be, regardless of what your craft is, learn something new every day. And it really helps if you teach it to other people, because it solidifies the concept and you're always giving. It teaches you that it's not just for you. So what happened as a result of this, and there's a story I just want to get into one quick second about being supported. But what I ended up doing was I lost 75 pounds. I got down to a weight that, I'm happy with. I got to a very good fitness level. I noticed that I had the ability to create space between me and any situation. I had the ability to choose. There's a phrase that I've heard a lot: don't react, but do respond.
Yes.
I don't want to react, but I need to respond, but I want to choose my response, not be a knee jerk. And then, the hardest part about all of this was to understand that you can push your way through limitations. A lot of the limitations you set, and the way you get through those limitations is by putting yourself out there, but surrounding yourself with the right people. And the story I wanted to tell was during this leadership training, we were in a mountain in Idaho, which was our capstone deal.
Right.
And the last thing we had to do was hike up this trail, which was, I was told, the equivalent of a 65-story building. And, and you also had to carry a rock up there. So there was a physical challenge too.
You got the rock. You got the rock.
You get the rock and you got you. Well, I'm the oldest by a fair number of years. And I am probably the least fit because I was still working on my fitness at that point. And so who has to lead? Me. So you're taking the team up. Go. So I got the rock and I'm starting up there and we get a little ways and I am hurting. And one of the other guys, his name's Sean, he called me Johnny and he said, Johnny, do you want me to carry a rock for you? I said, no, Sean, I got to do this. I really got to do this. And so he put his hand on my shoulder and he said, I got you.
Wow.
Yeah. And so he didn't push. It was just there. And knowing that I had somebody around me that was supporting me, and, and I could feel the physical touch, we made it up there. It took me a bit, but we made it up there. And I've never forgotten that. And by the way, those guys that I went on that mountain with, we're still in touch today, 7 years later. We still talk at least once a month, just checking in with each other. So that was a time for me where, I'd hit a really, I'd been a partner, and one of the other companies I worked for was Accenture. And I'd been a partner at Accenture. So I'd achieved, success at every level, except within me. Externally, I had plenty of success as defined on paper. What I didn't have was the sense of satisfaction within me that I was successful. Right. So what that program taught me was that one, you're never too old to change. Two, change can be meaningful and significant if you're willing, to do the work, and that there are plenty of other people out there, and you're never alone if you're willing to take the help.
Right. I think this is so powerful for people to hear, because you had achieved success, like in all the types of ways that we normally would say this is success. You had the money success, you had risen up into different levels of huge, well-known companies. You're a partner at a company. And so we would look at it and go, wow. And then to know that there's another level, like the success that we all truly crave. Like we think the success we crave is, and I did this, John, to myself. When I was a kid, I was like, okay, I'm going to be All-State, and then I'm going to be All-American, and then I'm going to be an Olympian, and then I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And I did all of those things, every one of them. And every time I got to that level of success, I felt empty. And so I thought, oh my gosh, I haven't done enough. I've got to do the next, whatever that next thing is. I've got to do that. And then I would do that. National championship basketball coach. Still felt empty. Like, what is this? Like, I'm doing all the stuff I said I was going to do. I've achieved the level of success that most athletes and coaches never get to, and I was still empty. And I think that was the part that people, when you're young, you're striving for all this stuff, and you think that achieving it is going to be the fulfillment factor that you want. And while it is, I'm not going to say it wasn't like not fulfilling, because they were. But it wasn't the level happiness and joy and celebration and what I thought it was going to be. It wasn't that level. And so it was really, learning what you learned through this program is really learning different levels of what this really means. So like, what does it really mean to have the level of success that is fulfilling? And I think that's a big mistake that a lot of leaders make, is they think that by achieving a level or making X amount of money that it's going to fulfill you. And that's when I think we start getting frustrated, maybe a little angry, because it's not doing it. And then you go through this incredible program. So for leaders that are starting out, let's say they've been in it for 5 years, maybe 10 years, and you would say to them, hey, listen, this is what is going to be really important to you. What would you tell them? I mean, like this program changed your life. What would you say is going to be really important that they do now?
Two things. Know yourself. You spend time on knowing yourself. There are a lot of, diagnostics. There are a lot of, ways you can do that, but spend time on it, and not just going through the motions or the exercise or doing the, this training or that training. Spend time reflecting on it. You need to reflect on it. And sometimes it takes a little bit for you to get it, and for it to sink in. And revisit it, because what your initial interpretation is, give it a little time, go back in a month or 2 months or a year, read it again or go through it again. I bet you your interpretation's changed and you might get something more out of it. And the second thing I would tell them to do is start surrounding yourself with the right folks. I call it the council of truth tellers, whatever you want to call it, trusted advisors, whatever you want, but find those people. Find the people that will speak the truth to you no matter what, because they're truly your friends. They're truly the people that care about you. I'm fortunate. I have a lot of them. I have a lot of those people around me that will, and sometimes it's, no fun to hear, but spend time on finding those folks, cultivating them, contribute to them, because it's a two-way street, but allow them to contribute to you. So, because the word that I kept thinking about as you were going through, what your stories or your experience about, what you were able to achieve, was that it wasn't sustainable. And the sustainability, I think, comes from here. You generate that sustainability because you can create it. It doesn't have to be created for you.
Right. Well, I think that's the mistake a lot of people make is between their role and their identity, right? So,
Oh man, yeah.
we think that the role is our identity, and when we understand that they're separate, and then we can
Yeah.
do a good job with it. Like I'm not mad I did any of that. Like I certainly am happy that I did all of it. But it was the confusion of the role of my identity. Like without that, I didn't know that I was worthy, and so I thought that was creating my worthiness. That was creating me, and I didn't know that without it, I was still worthy, and I still had all this stuff to offer. Because I thought I only had stuff to offer from that aspect, and I didn't know there were other things that were, far more important than that.
Yeah.
The ability to really see somebody, the ability to really listen to somebody, the ability to stand in their shoes, the ability just to bring light to the world, like just to walk into a room with the capacity from me to fill up this beauty that coming out of my soul. I had no idea that those things were important, they were important. And the difference, because now I can say, look, without any of those titles, because those titles don't make me, they didn't make me. No. And they're not who I am. But at the time when I was doing it, it was who I was. And so if something failed in any of that, if I had a setback in any of that, I was destroyed, literally destroyed. And I'm not destroyed now. And I think that for leaders who are looking at leadership, you have to be able to distinguish between who you are and what you do.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yep. Don't confuse what you do for a living for your vocation in this world.
Yeah. Because the way that because then you really show up differently. Yeah. Then you show up, that's when people are like, oh my gosh, like I want to be around this person, or I want to know this person, or I want to be like this person, or I want to be able to give like this person can give. I want to be able to do that. So I want to go back to this, like you were able to drop all that weight, and that was incredible. What did it do for you as a leader? That you showed up and you had lost this weight. I know you felt better, but what did it do for you as a leader that you became, you started working out, you started feeling the physicality of your body, you started feeling the strength of your body. How did that enable you to be better at your job, better at being a leader? I don't want to say job, that's terrible. Being better at showing up showing up as you, as a good leader.
Well, it showed me that the ability to change and the ability to create was within me. And it also showed me that I can deal with adversity, that I can take on a tough goal and I can achieve it. And so when future tough problems came along, I felt more confident physically, mentally, emotionally to be able to address those things. It created a lot less stress for me going forward. And
I think that we forget, it's all connected. The things you were talking about, the spirituality, the relationship, being, the business part, it's all interconnected. And we have a tendency to disconnect. Like we want to compartmentalize. Here's me, the business person. Here's me, the spiritual person. Here's me, the physical. Like we want to disconnect all that. And I think that it's all intimately connected. I became a better leader when I became more spiritual. And so for me, spirituality is about self-awareness. It's about recognizing those things where I don't show up well. And it's about connecting to a way that I show up better. That's that self-awareness piece. The more that I integrated, I started understanding the more about how I showed up, my spirituality, the love that I am and the love that I can give. And I don't mean the romantic love, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think it made a huge impact on how I led my teams. I think early, and I hate to admit this, early I led from fear and intimidation. I hate to say that, but I did. And later it was really from this connective place of love and compassion and kindness. And I'm not saying, and when I say that, people go, oh, well then you didn't hold people accountable. Oh no, I did. The way that I did it was different.
Right. You can hold people relentlessly accountable with a smile on your face. And pleasant words. You don't have to be, as you said, fear and intimidation. Doesn't have to be that way.
I would even say in terminating somebody, that you can be that same way. That you can come into that meeting with, I'm doing this for you. I'm helping you move forward. You're obviously not in alignment with either who you need to be right now or where you need to be right now. Yeah. And you can come into that meeting without blame or the need to be right or anger. You can come with the meeting with total compassion for the human being and let them go. And I think this is what makes a great leader, because that person can leave your team and still respect you.
Yeah. Also, you don't want to react out of fear either, because I think when you go in to let somebody go,
Mm-hmm.
There's a fear that you have that, I don't want them to get upset.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an unrealistic expectation.
Yeah, it is.
So you have to be willing to hear whatever comes back. Because just understand, when two people come into the room with a job, one leaves with a job, the other doesn't. So you have to have some kind of empathy about that. And the empathy sometimes isn't in the, oh, you'll be okay. I want to call it just false sympathy. It's really, in true empathy, is being willing to listen.
Yeah.
And that means being willing to hear whatever comes back, sometimes quite unpleasant. But if you kind of think about it, in your own experience, when you've been angry, the best thing you can do is do something to get rid of the anger. So maybe by just giving them a space to vent, you're starting them on that process of, they're going to get rid of this, and they're going to get over to something, then put them in a position that'll work for them, because this one clearly didn't.
Right.
Yeah.
And that goes back to like the more that you work on yourself, right? The more that you do that self-awareness, that personal development, the physical development, all the things you're talking about, the more that you sit in a meeting like that, very difficult, challenging meeting. And if sometimes it's even like you're ready for that person to go because they've been a thorn in your side, they've been toxic, whatever it is, but you're ready to go into the meeting with the intention of not like hurting or harming or vengeful or whatever it is, but you're really with the intention of, let's move forward. Let's let this individual move forward. And let's let me and the company or the team move forward. It's really with that ability to separate all that. And that can only come from, as you mentioned, on your journey of self-awareness, where you see, even if the person is not for the best of the team, see the person as a person and understand that they have a journey to go on. And it's just such a different viewpoint when you do all the work that you've done. So on the parting note here, John, what would you tell people is, if I haven't asked you a question that you really wanted to be asked, or if we haven't gone through something that you wanted to discuss, or maybe you just want to reiterate something, what is the last message that you would leave folks with?
Know you and be you. Know you. Know who you are and who you're not. And then be who you are. And with the understanding that who that is can change over time. So, but it all starts with the knowing you first. So invest in yourself.
I would say that I think that's really true. I think that a lot of people think they're self-aware and they're not. I was truly one of them. I thought I was self-aware, and when I went on the journey of self-awareness, and I'm still doing it to this day, and I've been in personal development for 30 plus years, I still do it, and I go, I did not know that about myself. How could I have not known that? I've lived with myself all these decades. And I'm like, what? This is how I show up? What? So I think that once you get on the pathway, you understand there's always another level of understanding, another level of growth that you can go on. And it's never ending. But when we choose to do that as leaders, when we choose to go in that self-awareness phase, not only does it help you, it helps every single person around you. You just show up differently, right?
Yep.
Well, John, I'm so grateful for you. I'm so grateful that you chose to come on today, and that you are offering, the wisdom that you offer to people from all your years of experience, especially the decision that you made all those years ago to go into this leadership program 100%, and to come out as a, valuable, uniquely transformed leader and individual, that you're showing up differently for the world. So thank you for that. And hey, everybody, please share this podcast with other people. Let them know this is a valuable information, that you can grow from this podcast. And that's what we're about, is truly growing you to the next level. So share, and have a winning day. And we'll see you in the next podcast. Bye now.
Coach, thanks. Thanks a lot.